Hey everyone, I'm going to try something a little bit different. I've talked about this concept in videos before about us giving our power away to the other person, and I found a video or a movie that kind of illustrates this. And I want to use clips from just one part of it. Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen this movie, this will absolutely give away the end, but it's an older movie, so hopefully it's not a big deal. It's Labyrinth with David Bowie, and it's an older movie, kind of more of like a kid's movie. I think it was made in the mid-'80s. And there's an interaction in there which I think really is relevant to our situations. And I know it's a movie and I know it's kind of silly, but I think it might help illustrate my thought on how power works on this and what happens. So we're going to go through just this one little segment. I'm going to break this video up and I'm going to just kind of chat a little bit about each section and kind of break it down a little bit and how it pertains to us.
Give me the child.
Okay, so in that scene, that's just kind of a setup scene. That's towards the end whenever Sarah and the Goblin King are finally meet together. And basically Sarah is saying, give me the child back. And a lot of times I think that's us in our situation where we're trying to get our lives back. We're like, hey, give me my life back. I'm sick of this game. I've played the game. I'm tired of it. Just give me what I want out of it, which is yourself. In this situation in the movie, she's obviously trying to get her little baby brother back. But I think that's it's kind of a good analogy to the situation we're going through.
Sarah, beware. I have been generous up until now, but I can be cruel.
Okay, so in that clip, you have the Goblin King basically telling Sarah, hey, I am generous, I can be cruel. And here's the thing, a lot of times I think a lot of us don't realize that whenever we're fighting these people and we think we understand them, we think we understand who they are, and there's a level of cruelty and evilness that we just don't anticipate. And it's not really until we start standing up for ourselves that it really manifests itself and shows it. And another thing I've talked about a lot is how your narcissist will typically tell you exactly everything that's going on and what they're going to do. And in this situation, you got the Goblin King basically telling Sarah, hey, watch what you're doing because I'm this person. Most of the time that manifests whenever people are telling us that I'm not really a good person, or people shouldn't trust me, or, people always leave me, or whatever. Most of the time, your toxic ex is going to tell you exactly what's going to happen or what's to come or who they really are. Now, typically they hide it or mask it in a situation to where they're telling you, but they're doing it in a way to where you don't believe it, or you think they're just being hard on themselves. Because a lot of times we're hard on ourselves. So when someone is saying, no one likes me, no one's this, you're like, oh, okay, well, no, that's not true. You're really a good person. No, you wouldn't you wouldn't be cruel, that type of thing. Maybe that's not a great example for this particular movie because he was freaking crazy in this movie. Not crazy, it's a PG-13 movie if I remember correctly, but he wasn't exactly a nice person. But again, I think it's a good example of how they will tell you exactly who they are and exactly what is coming. So on that, if you're in a situation where your toxic ex is telling you things about what they're going to do, who they are, believe them. Believe what they tell you. Believe what other people tell you too. So if if their family member is telling you that hey, my sister or my brother is a psycho, good luck marrying him. Listen to those indicators because a lot of times it really is people being honest and telling you the truth.
Generous. What have you done that's generous?
So in this situation, you have Sarah basically going, and this is kind of the situation we fall in. It's like, what? And most of the time, and I've seen this a lot this has happened within my own story, and I have seen this a lot with people on the channel, is their ex will say, well, I was just being nice. Or, someone will offer something stupid like, they'll be really toxic. I saw something a while back where someone was saying, hey, if I don't have a date for Christmas, do you want to go with me, or, we'll celebrate Christmas together with our child, but only if I don't have a date. And the comment back was, wait a minute, I'm not going to be your, you either want me there or not. And then the comment back was, well, I was just being generous. Actually, I was just being generous, or I was just being nice. I was just being nice. A lot of times people will do that too. And This goes into that delusional thinking to where you got Jared thinking that he is being nice, and you got Sarah who's actually like realizing, wait a minute, what you're not being generous. There's nothing generous about this. It's like, you haven't been cruel yet, that type of thing. They're still living in their fantasy lands where things aren't really working out.
Everything that you wanted, I have done.
Okay, so that's a good example of the narcissistic toxic personality type basically trying to defend themselves, saying, I've done everything for you. You're just blowing it out of proportion. You're not seeing this correctly. You're misconstruing my actions and you're taking it wrong because I've really been a good person and I've been trying to help you. That is, all of us have experienced that, and that's a very common tactic that they will use to try to break you down and have you not believe yourself on what you're dealing with. Because typically in this situation, and granted this is a movie and it's getting towards the end of it, but typically what would happen is you start questioning yourself. You're like, well, maybe I think they're cruel. Maybe they're not cruel. I didn't think it was being generous, but maybe it is generous. Am I wrong? Right? Because they mess with your mind to the point where you start questioning yourself and you don't really believe everything that's going on and what you're experiencing.
You cowered before me. I was frightening. I have reordered time. I have turned the world upside down, and I have done it all for you.
Okay, so in this scene, Jared's basically doubling down. He is trying to reframe everything, trying to say, you are wrong. You are not paying attention to this correctly. I've done everything for you. This is all because, all this drama, all this chaos is because you wanted it. You wanted me to be like this. This kind of falls into the whole thing where, it's like, well, you pushed me to physically abuse you. You pushed me to do these things. I didn't want to do that. I did it because you wanted me to do it. Again, it's an example of gaslighting and changing the narrative and trying to change your perspective on what's going on to make you question yourself and to really question what's going on.
Through dangers untold and hardships unnumbered, I have fought my way here to the castle beyond the Goblin City.
Okay, so in this situation, this is where a lot of us get to this point to where you start to recognize something's not right. There's more to this whole thing than really meets the eye, and I'm not believing the illusion and the story that the other person in this situation that Jared is actually putting out there. This isn't right. There's more to this. There's an underlying story that I'm not getting. And in this situation, this is kind of like the stage whenever you start questioning the whole thing. You're like, something's not right. Something isn't right. This isn't happening, or this isn't playing out the way it's supposed to play out. And that's the first step, and that most of us go through when we start changing our perspective on what we're dealing with. We're not necessarily focusing, we're still focusing on the situation, but we're taking a step back and going, wait a minute, something's not right? Now, I get sometimes in our situations, we get discarded and it doesn't happen in this way. You don't get to make the realization. But in a lot of ways, it is still the same. Even if you've been discarded, you can be sitting there and having these epiphanies like Sarah's having right now, to where she's going, wait a minute, something's not right. I'm going through this story. This isn't adding up. There's a piece of this puzzle that I'm missing.
And
Stop. Wait. Look, Sarah. Look what I'm offering you.
Okay, now in this situation, Jared's realizing, oh crap, she's starting to see what's happening. She's starting to see through the illusion. This is exactly what happens with a narcissistic personality type. Sometimes I've talked about it with the narcissistic stare. Oftentimes they'll sit there and they will actively try, they'll double down, they'll actively try to make you believe that you're wrong, that no, you shouldn't leave. This is the best it'll ever be. You'll never have a better life. This is, you'll never be able to get someone. You'll never be happy. You're a piece of crap. You're whatever the thing is. In this situation, he's trying to convince her, it's like, look, everything you ever wanted, I got right here. I got right here in this magic little crystal. Just let me win, basically.
Kingdom is great. Damn. I can never remember that line.
Again, this shows the struggle. What Sarah's doing right there, she's trying to remember. She's forgetting what the reality is. She's forgetting the lines, not the lines, but the story. If you guys have seen this movie, The Labyrinth is really big on the wording of things. Like in the beginning of the movie, she's very melodramatic, right? It's a young kid movie, but But the whole premise behind it is that she calls out for the Goblin King to take her baby brother. She has to say the words. I'm not going to put a clip of that in there, but she has to say the words to allow him to take her baby brother. So on the end of it, it's the same thing, right? She has to say the phrase or remember the story to where she can regain her power, which is what this is coming to. But this is really important because a lot of times, you're still in your questioning phase. You're still, you have reality. You have the answer right in front of you, but you don't want to believe it, or you can't remember it, or you're so fixated on everything that's going on that you're not focused on what you need to basically heal from, or not heal, but to give you the power to start healing and to break free from this, because you're still trapped within the narrative of the story.
Just fear me, love me, do as I say, and I will be your slave.
Okay, so in this situation, I probably could have cut this part out, but again, Jared's basically saying, fear me, let me control, let me control you, and I'll be your slave. It's like the symbiotic relationship, which unfortunately that typically is a very typical scenario for a codependent or an empathic type person or codependent person with a toxic or narcissistic type person. They kind of feed off each other. It's like, okay, this person is getting valid, the codependent is getting, their validation from this toxic person. And this person, the toxic person, is getting the supply from the other person. It's this back and forth. Jared's saying, look, let's continue playing this game. Let's continue living in this unhealthy, dysfunctional relationship because I'll get everything I want. I'll have power over you, but I'll also be your slave because it's this connection, which is why a lot of times a trauma bond, at least for the empath person, is really, really tough because you are really connected in a deep way to the person. And that's kind of what's happening in this scene.
You have no power over me.
Okay, that right there, that is the key. And I think we all get to this point, and sometimes it takes a long time. Sometimes it takes years. It took me a long time to get to this point to realize that the ex doesn't have any power over me, that I was giving my power to her, and that I was basically giving her control over my emotions. And that scene right there, Sarah's finally gotten to the point that she's like, hold on a second. This whole trauma, this whole 2-hour movie that I've been in, trying to deal with this, trying to fight, trying to play within your rules, trying to play the game with you. And it's turning out to where it's like, it doesn't work. She's had the epiphany, she's realized it, and then she's articulated the words saying, you have no power over me. And this is a theme that I've talked about this in other videos. I just haven't been able to find a video clip of it. And if you know of other video clips that illustrate this, please share it in the comments below, because there are some other examples of this where they'll have like a villain in the story that's a supernatural, spiritual type villain, and what ends up happening is the protagonist in it realizes, hey, wait a minute, you only have power because I believe in you, because I give it to you, because I'm giving you my energy that's giving you the energy back to control me. And you're actively giving it to the person. You're actively basically saying, here, have all my control, have all my power, have my supply, and I'll give it to you so where you can basically attack me. And in this situation, Sarah's finally gotten to the point where she's realized that, holy crap, I don't have to play this game anymore. I don't have to give you that power. And she says the words, like I just said before, you don't have any power over me. And boom, that stops everything. And then the movie continues on. I don't have any clips from it, but she gets her baby brother back, everything. She escapes the fantasy world that she's in. She's back home. She's back with her little brother. And Jared isn't able to control her life and doesn't have power. And guys, here's the thing. In these situations, and I know it feels weird, and if you think about it, if you watch the whole movie, the whole thing is based on her playing this game with Jared. We do that whether it's a year, or in my situation 21 years. You get in this mode and you start playing this game with the person, and it feels natural, it feels normal, and you just deal with it, and you don't realize that you actually have more power than you think. The problem is you just have to get to the point, like Sarah did in this movie, to where you finally say, I'm done with this. I'm done. There isn't, you don't have any power over me anymore. I'm taking it back. I'm not playing your game anymore. I get that in a situation with kids that, you have family court and other things that are making this thing a living hell. But the thing I want you to think about is that at the end of the day, you get to decide if you give them that power. It's a hell of a lot harder to do than you really, really think. And I know this movie is just kind of a superficial thing to illustrate it. I hope you find the entertainment value in using these movie clips to explain it. But it all rolls into the same thing. What I mean is that if your ex is winning something, you can choose to sit there and be angry about it and bitter about it and be trapped with them, or you can say, I'm done with it. If you get to the point where your kids have been turned, you can make a decision on how you're going to deal with it. Now, I've made other videos on that, and I'll go into more detail on that. I'm not saying completely walk away from your kids. I just did a live stream earlier where we talked about this for a while, and I'll make another video specifically on this. But you can decide how you're going to press forward. I know that if you're in the midst of this, it can feel like, wait a minute, how can I do that when I've lost so much? The thing is that it's about perspective, and it's about understanding really where your power is and making decisions in that mode. So on that, I'm going to wrap this up. If you like the way this video was and the way I did it, I'm not sure how well it's going to work. Give it a thumbs up, put in the comments, give me some feedback on what you think. If you think this is an interesting way to talk about the topics, I have to see if YouTube is going to clobber this. I tried to do this before and they went, nope. They kind of freaked out the way I cut it together. So we'll check on that. Like I said, love to hear what you think about this, your perspective. If you have some ideas, some other movies that have done this, let me know, because I really do want to find those. I forgot about this one until someone I was talking to about this particular scenario, and they said that. And so that's why I went ahead and made this video. So hopefully you like it. Let me know in the comments below. If you like this channel and you think it's helpful, please consider subscribing. Hit that bell notification so that YouTube will actually tell you about when I post a video. And check out the cards for some other videos. I leave my mindset for narcissistic abuse recovery right over down there, and a video that YouTube specifically picked for you right over here. And I will chat with you in the next video. Take care.